Ly Tu Diem here. Hello everyone. I wish you all good health and gentle peace in your lives. Sometimes, I wonder, how far can love truly go? Can it cross distance, silence, heartbreak can still survive? After so many days apart, I saw him again, CEO Toan. The man I once held so close, now standing before me like a memory I wasn't ready to face. My heart trembled. Did I still feel something for him? And more importantly, would fate be kind enough to give us a second chance? The rain had just stopped. The sky was still gray, heavy with unshed emotions just like her heart. Standing at the edge of the market, clothes damp and feet aching. She didn't expect anything unusual that day, but life had its own rhythm. Fate, sometimes quiet for so long, suddenly moved like a gust of wind, bringing the past right back into the present. She looked up. There he was. Toan, the man she once risked everything for. The man whose absence had carved a silent wound in her chest. One she had tried to cover with survival and silence. His eyes were searching. When they finally found hers, time seemed to pause. The noise of the market faded. The people disappeared. There were only two, souls torn apart, standing before each other again. Toan stepped closer, rain still on his jacket, breath trembling slightly. "I've been looking for you," he said, voice husky, like he hadn't spoken her name in long. "I thought I'd lost you forever." Tu Diem's heart twisted. She remembered the days in the forest, the cold nights, the kind old lady who would save her. She remembered her reasons for leaving: fear, guilt, not feeling worthy of his love. But now, standing in front of him, all those reasons felt small. What remained was the look in his eyes, the same warmth, the same longing, the same love. "I didn't know you still cared," she whispered, trying to steady her voice. Toan stepped closer. "I never stopped." There was a silence between them, filled with memories, pain, but also hope. She didn't answer right away. How could she? So much had happened. So much had changed. And yet, when he gently took her hand, mud-stained, cold, but real, she didn't pull away. They walked together without saying much. The sun began to break through the clouds, painting soft golden light over the wet streets. Tu Diem didn't know where they were going, but her feet followed him, just like her heart had always done. Toan brought her to a small coffee shop tucked in a quiet corner of the city. It was warm inside, smelling of roasted beans and sweet pastries. He ordered ginger tea for her, the same drink she used to love. He remembered. They sat by the window, watching the world outside move on as if nothing extraordinary had just happened. But for them, everything had changed. Toan finally broke the silence. "I searched everywhere. I went back to the forest, to the old house. Every time I thought I saw you in a crowd, my heart stopped." He looked at her. "Why did you leave?" Tu Diem lowered her eyes. "I thought I was a burden. Your world is so different from mine. I didn't want to drag you down with all my pain." Toan reached across the table and gently held her hand. "You weren't a burden. You were the reason I came back alive. Diem, you saved me not just from that accident, but from myself. I was lost, cold, empty, and then you appeared." Her eyes welled up, but she quickly wiped the tears before they fell. "But your mother, your company, I don't care," he said simply. "Nothing matters more than you. I've realized that love isn't about matching backgrounds or status. It's about how someone makes your soul feel at peace. And with you, I'm home. For the first time in a long while." Tu Diem smiled, truly smiled.
"Then maybe," she whispered, "fate is giving us another chance. Toan smiled back, his voice soft. But sure, only if you'll take it with me. She looked out the window again. The clouds now gone. The sky clear. Yes, she said. I'm ready.
Days passed. After their reunion, Tu Diem stayed at a small guest house near the edge of town. She said she needed time to think, to breathe, to find herself again. Toan respected that. He didn't push. Every morning, he sent her a good morning message. Every evening, a short note. I'm here, if you need me. And though she didn't always reply, she read them all. One rainy afternoon, Tu Diem stood by the window of her room, watching raindrops trace paths down the glass. Her heart still held fears. Could she really belong in Toan's world? Could she face everything she had tried to run from? A soft knock at the door. It was Toan. He held an umbrella in one hand and a simple box wrapped in brown paper in the other. Without a word, he handed it to her. Inside was a handmade photo album, pages filled with moments some she had forgotten, some she never knew he captured. A pressed flower from the forest, a picture of her selling vegetables in the rain, a note he had written but never sent. I never stopped looking for you. I never stopped hoping. She pressed the book to her chest. I'm scared, she admitted. A week later, Ly Tu Diem stepped into the lobby of Toan's company for the first time, not as a stranger, not as someone who had once saved his life in the forest, but as his newly appointed secretary. Her heart pounded in her chest. Everything around her was polished, professional to different from the quiet, muddy paths of the hills where she once survived with nothing but wild fruit and hope. But Toan had stood beside her, gently guiding her forward, never forcing, just believing in her. The elevator opened. Toan was waiting. He smiled, not the formal smile of a CEO, but the quiet, steady smile of someone who had waited a long time for something precious to return. You're here, he said. I am, Tu Diem replied, her voice calm but steady. I want to try. Her first day was a whirlwind of introductions, documents, meetings. She made mistakes, forgot a client's name, spilled coffee on her notes. But each time, Toan reminded her, you don't have to be perfect. Just be honest. Just be you. By lunchtime, she sat alone in her desk, overwhelmed. Suddenly, a note slid beside her plate. Come to the rooftop. She took the elevator up. The city skyline stretched before her like a sea of endless possibilities. Toan stood by the edge, holding 2 cups of warm tea. This was always my favorite place, he said. Whenever I felt lost, I came here to remember why I started. Tu Diem took the cup and sipped. Silence surrounded them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful. Toan, she said softly. What if I can't keep up with your world? He turned to her gently. Then I'll slow down, because I'd rather walk beside you at your pace than run ahead alone. Tears welled in her eyes, not of sorrow, but of something deeper. Gratitude, not trust. Love. She leaned against his shoulder, and for the first time in a long while, she felt safe. Not because the world was perfect, but because someone had chosen to stay even when things weren't. Chat Connoy, life lesson from Ly Tu Diem and CEO Toan's story. How far can love go? Will fate give them a second chance? Love, when it is true, is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it comes quietly, in small actions, in the way someone waits for you, believes in you, or walks beside you without expecting anything in return. The story of Ly Tu Diem and CEO Toan teaches us that love is not just about emotions, it is about choice, patience, and courage. Ly Tu Diem came from a past filled with pain and fear. She had been abandoned, accused, chased, and nearly sold like an object. But she survived. She didn't let her scars define her. She kept walking, even when she had no shoes, no food, no place to call home. That alone is strength. Toan, despite being a successful CEO, showed us that true power is not in wealth or status but in kindness. He never judged Diem for her past. Instead, he protected her, encouraged her, and gave her a space to heal. He saw her not as someone broken, but as someone brave. Their reunion after being separated by fate shows that love can wait. It can survive distance, silence, and even doubt. But when given a second chance, it must be nurtured with understanding and trust. The lesson is clear. No matter how far life pushes us apart, no matter how different two worlds may seem when two hearts are honest and loyal, they will find a way back to each other. Love is not about perfection. It is about presence. And sometimes, the most beautiful relationships grow not from fairy tales but from real, raw moments of compassion. So how far can love go? As far as you're willing to walk with patience, forgiveness, and an open heart. Continuing the life lesson from Ly Tu Diem and CEO Toan's story. Love is not always found in perfect timing. It often comes when we are broken, lost, or least expecting it. Ly Tu Diem didn't look for love. She was simply trying to survive, to escape the cruelty that had haunted her. And yet, in the darkest part of her journey, love found her. Not in the form of promises, but in the quiet strength of someone who stood by her side. Toan. Their love teaches us that healing is possible when someone sees us for who we truly are. Toan didn't try to change Diem or fix her. He simply offered her a safe place to rest, to be heard, and to be cared for. And sometimes, that's all we need to begin again. We also learn that real love is selfless. Toan searched for Diem, worried for her, and protected her even when she wanted to leave. He didn't hold her back, he let her choose. And in the end, that freedom helped Diem understand that love is not control. Love is freedom, respect, and the will to walk side by side. Another lesson is that forgiveness is part of love. Diem had every reason to feel ashamed or afraid. But by opening her heart again, by allowing herself to trust, she showed us that we can let go of fear and choose love even after pain. Finally, their story reminds us that fate gives second chances, but we must be brave enough to accept them. Life may separate us from the people we care about, but love, if it is true, will find a way back only if we are willing to fight for it. So, let this story remind us, never be ashamed of your past. Believe in kindness, it still exists. And when love returns, don't run, let it in. Because sometimes, love comes back not to repeat the past, but to write a better future.